Magandang Biyernes po sa inyo, aking mga kausapan. Please like, share, subscribe, and press the ting-ting bell button para ma-notify kayo sa aking susunod na vlog. Ito ang iyong abang lingkod, Usapang Batas with Attorney I. Madilim ang iyong paligid. Hating gabi, walang hanggan. Mapalad ka o kaibigan, isinilang ka mang ganyan, isang bulag sa kamunduhan, ligtas ka sa kasalanan. Lyrics ito ng kantang pinasikat ni Freddie Aguilar na Bulag, Pipi at Bingi. Oo mga kausapan, ang bulag, ang pipi at ang bingi ay mga PWD o Persons with Disability. Yung bulag, walang paningin, ang pipi di makapagsalita, ang bingi ay di makarinig. Tatlong klase ng Persons with Disability at marami pang iba. Ayon sa NCDA, Kawanin ng Department of Social Welfare and Development, mahigit na 1.6 million Filipinos ang may disabilities. Base sa datos noong December 6, 2020 at maaring dumami pa ito ngayong year 2022. Tingnan natin ang datos ng Census of Population and Housing, CPH, noong 2010. Ipinakita na sa household population na 92.1 million, 1.443 million Filipinos or 1.57% ay may disability. Region 4A ang may pinakamaraming naitala na PWD na 193,000 PWDs. At ang Cordillera Administrative Region or CAR naman ang may pinakamababang numero ng PWDs, only 26,000 PWDs. Ang mga taong with disabilities ay umaharap ng lahat ng uri ng diskriminasyon at pang-aapi mula sa social, cultural, political at economic na buhay sa komunidad. Ang masaklap, ang taong PWD ay maaring makaranas ng kahirapan sa buhay dahil sa pagiging PWD. Kaya ang sagot sa hinaing ng mga PWD ay para masagot ang kanilang pangailangan at prioridad ay nasa batas ang Republic Act 7277. Ang RA 7277 ay Magna Carta for Disabled Persons, an act providing for the rehabilitation, self-development, and self-reliance of disabled persons and their integration into the mainstream of society and for other purposes. Pagkaraan ng ilang taon, may idinagdag sa batas tulad ng una, other privileges and incentives ng PWD, prohibitions on verbal, non-verbal ridicule and vilification against persons with disabilities, and penal na provision na ginawang krimen ang pang-aapi sa PWD. Yan ang sinasabi ng Republic Act number 9442. Alamin natin ang ibig sabihin ng disabled persons, impairment, disability, at handicap. Disabled persons are those suffering from restrictions or different abilities as a result of a mental, physical, or sensory impairment to perform an activity in the manner or within the range considered normal for a human being. B. Impairment is any loss, diminution, or aberration of psychological, physiological, or anatomical structure or function. C. Disability shall mean 1. Physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more psychological, physiological, or anatomical function of an individual or activities of such individual. 2. A record of such an impairment. And 3. Being regarded as having such an impairment. E. Handicap refers to a disadvantage for a given individual resulting from an impairment or a disability that limits or prevents the function or activity that is considered normal given the age and sex of an individual. At Attorney I, maaari bang ditanggapin ang PWD sa trabaho dahil sa kanyang kapansanan? Yan ay sinagot ng RA 7277 Section 5 na nagsasaad na equal opportunity for employment. Walang disabled person ang tatanggihan ng oportunidad na makahanap ng karampatang trabaho. Ang qualified na disabled employee ay sasailalim ng parehas na alituntunin at kondisyon sa trabaho at parehas na sweldo, pribilehiyo, benepisyo, fringe benefits, incentives at allowances katulad ng qualified able-bodied person. Sinigurado ng batas na may mga pasukan ang mga PWD. Kaya 5% ng lahat ng casual, emergency, and contractual position sa mga departments of social welfare, development, health education, culture and sports, and other government agencies, offices or corporations engaged in social development ay nakareserve para sa disabled persons. Attorney I, ang disabled person ba dahil sa kanyang kapansanan ay maaari bang tanggihan ng mga eskwelahan? Ang sagot ay Chapter 2 ng RA 7277 tungkol sa edukasyon. Sabi ng Section 12, access to quality education. Sisiguraduhin ng gobyerno na ang mga disabled persons ay bibigyan ng pagkakataon sa kalidad na edukasyon at sapat na oportunidad na ma-develop ang kakayahan ng PWD. It shall take appropriate steps to make such education accessible to all disabled persons. Labag sa batas sa isang learning institution na hindi tanggapin ang isang disabled person sa kahit anong course sa kanilang eskwelahan dahil sa kapansanan o disability. Nasabi ko na ang ilan sa mga rights and privileges ng disabled persons. Kasama na dyan ang karapatang pangkalusugan at iba pa. Pero ang layunin sa vlog na ito ay para ipaintindi sa inyo na ang mga PWD ay hindi pwedeng basta-basta na lang i-discriminate. Yan ay bawal, lalo na sa lugar ng trabaho. Meron akong client na PWD, mga 4 years na siyang empleyado sa PWD office ng isang local government. Noong magpalit ng chief ang office nila, ay napag-initan siya at lahat ng kanyang kilos ay pinupuna. At di lang yan, lagi siyang isinusumbong sa HR at saka sa city legal office. Isang araw, pinagawa siya ng incriminating affidavit. Dinikta ng boss at sinabi sa kanya na isulat niya doon na gumawa siya ng fake ID. Yung affidavit na yon ay isinumiti ng boss sa HR at saka sa city legal. Ang kawawang PWD ay nataranta at di niya alam ang gagawin. Hindi siya makatulog. Minsan di siya pumapasok dahil sa takot. Ang sabi niya sa akin, ayaw niya ng kaso. Gusto lang niya magandang atmosphere ng kanyang pinagtatrabahuan. May tanong ngayon kay Attorney I, mayroon bang violation ang boss na nangaapi sa PWD? Hindi pa ito kaso sa LGU. Inumpisan pa lang ng boss dahil ayaw niya sa PWD. Kaya gusto niya malis ito. Siya nga pala, may 2 empleyado rin na sakop niya na nalipat na o nawala na sa trabaho dahil sa kanyang kagagawan. Ulitin ko, ang tanong, tama ba ang ginagawa ng boss? Meron kaya siyang nilabag na batas? Ang sagot ay nasa Title 3 ng RA 7277, Prohibition on Discrimination Against Disabled Persons on Employment. Ano ang sabi ng Section 32? Discrimination on Employment. Walang entity, pampubliko man o pribado, ay magdi-discriminate laban sa qualified disabled person dahil sa kanyang disability tungkol sa trabaho, pag-apply sa trabaho at pamamaraan, the hiring, promotion or discharge of employees, employee compensation, job training, and other terms and conditions, and privileges of employment. Ano ang mga kilos o gawaing diskriminasyon laban sa PWD? A. Limiting, segregating, or classifying a disabled job applicant in such a manner that adversely affects his work opportunities. B. Using qualification standards, employment tests, or other selection criteria that screen out or tend to screen out a disabled person, unless such standards, tests, or other selection criteria are shown to be a job related for the position in question and are consistent with the business necessity. C. Utilizing standards, criteria, or methods of administration that 1. Have the effect of discrimination on the basis of disability or perpetuate the discrimination of others who are subject to common administrative control. D. Providing less compensation, such as salary, wage, or other forms of remuneration and fringe benefits to a qualified disabled employee by reason of his disability than the amount to which a non-disabled person performing the same work is entitled, favoring a non-disabled employee over a qualified disabled employee with respect to promotion, training opportunities, study, and scholarship grants solely on the account of the latter's disability. F. Reassigning or transferring a disabled employee to a job or position he cannot perform by reason of his disability. G. Dismissing or terminating the services of a disabled employee by reason of his disability unless the employer can prove that he impairs the satisfactory performance of the work involved to the prejudice of the business entity, provided, however, that the employer first sought to provide reasonable accommodations for disabled persons. Meron pa bang ibang klase ng diskriminasyon, Attorney Ai? Merong tinatawag na diskriminasyon sa transportasyon ng kausapan. It shall be considered discrimination for the franchises or operators and personnel of sea, land, and air transportation facilities to charge higher fare or refuse to convey a passenger his orthopedic devices, personal effects, and merchandise by reason of his disability. Mayroon ding discrimination in the use of public accommodations and services tulad ng A. Inn, hotel, motel, or other place of lodging except for an establishment located within a building that contains not more than 5 rooms for rent or hire and that is actually occupied by the proprietor of such establishment as the residence of such proprietor. B. A restaurant, bar, or other establishment serving food or drink. C. A motion picture, theater, concert hall, stadium, or other place of exhibition or entertainment. D. An auditorium, convention center, lecture hall, or other place of public gathering. E. A bakery, grocery store, hardware store, shopping center, or other sales or rental establishment. F. A bank, a barber shop, beauty shop, travel service, funeral parlor, gas station, office of a lawyer, pharmacy, insurance office, professional office of a healthcare provider, hospital, or other service establishment. G. A terminal, a depot, or other station used for a specified public transport. H. A museum, a gallery, library, or other place of public display or collection. I. A park, a zoo, amusement park, or other place of recreation. J. A nursery, elementary, secondary, undergraduate or postgraduate private school, or other place of education. K. A gymnasium, health spa, bowling alley, golf course, or other place of exercise or recreation. Ano naman ang discrimination on the use of public accommodations? A. No disabled person shall be discriminated on the basis of disability in the full and equal enjoyment of the goods, services, facilities, privileges, advantages, or accommodations of any place of public accommodations by any person who owns, leases, or operates a place of public accommodations. The following constitutes acts of discrimination. 1. Denying a disabled person directly or through contractual, licensing, or other arrangement the opportunity to participate in or benefit from the goods, services, facilities, privileges, advantages, or accommodations of an entity by reason of his disability. 2. Affording a disabled person on the basis of his disability, directly or through contractual licensing or other arrangement with the opportunity to participate in or benefit from good services, facility, privilege, advantage, or accommodation that is not equal to that afforded to other able-bodied persons. And 3. Providing a disabled person on the basis of his disability, directly or through contractual, licensing, or other arrangement with a good service, facility, advantage, privilege, or accommodation that is different or separate from that provided to other able-bodied persons, unless such action is necessary to provide the disabled person with a good service, facility, advantage, privilege, or accommodation, or other opportunity that is effective as that provided to others. Attorney I, may kaparusahan ba pag ikaw ay nag-discriminate sa isang PWD? Mayroon mang kausapan. Section 46 ay tinatawag na penal clause. A. Any person who violates the provision of this act shall suffer the following penalties. For the first violation, a fine of not less than 50,000 pesos but not exceeding 100,000 pesos, or imprisonment of not less than 6 months but not more than 2 years, or both at the discretion of the court. And 2. For any subsequent violation, a fine of not less than 100,000 pesos but not exceeding 200,000 pesos, or imprisonment for not less than 2 years but not more than 6 years, or both at the discretion of the court. B. Any person who abuses the privileges granted therein shall be punished with imprisonment of not less than 6 months or a fine of not less than 5,000 pesos, but not more than 50,000 pesos, or both at the discretion of the court. C. If a violator is a corporation, organization, or any similar entity, the officials thereof directly involved shall be liable thereto. D. If the violator is an alien or a foreigner, he shall be deported immediately after the service of sentence without further deportation proceedings. Shout out kay Judge Ralph S. Arellano ng Regional Trial Court Branch 132, Naik, Cavite. Salamat sa inyong pagsubaybay. Siya nga pala, ako si Attorney I ng Usapang Batas with Attorney I.